Good evening, everyone. This is Lisa with Heart of Inspiration, here to help you lead a whole and healed, spirit filled, peaceful, and prosperous life. So, tonight we're going to do the first of what will be a weekly Sunday podcast entitled Live Life in Spirit. And hopefully during this podcast time, we're going to examine different things, different aspects of the esoteric, the metaphysical, from astrology to tarot to spirituality, that will help us live our life in spirit. I want to talk to you tonight about this upcoming Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn during 2020. Jupiter is going to be in Capricorn for an entire year now. Pluto's been in Capricorn for quite some time, and it's going to remain there. And this is not a conjunction that we've seen for an amazing amount of time. You can Google when was the last time that Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were conjunct in Capricorn. So I could have added Saturn in this mix as well. And I titled this Year of Long-Term Personal Achievement, but I will probably retitle it Year of Long-Term Personal and Global Change and Achievement. The last time all three of these planets were together in Capricorn was 1894 BCE. Now, I didn't even know what in the heck BCE was. So, had to Google what that is. What's the difference between BCE and BC? BCE, or the CE, stands for Common or Current Era, while BCE means before the Common or Current Era. This is a shorter history than the BC and AD, although they date still from at least the early 1700s. Some people now call it, we used to call AD and BC to have the reference to Christianity. So it's really the same thing, right, as BC. BCE really means before the current era, probably to avoid referencing Christianity at any point. So 1894 BC. At this time, the ancient city of Babylon was established by Sumu Abum, an Amorite king. The city in itself was small and insignificant, but within a short few generations it grew, and by the 6th dynasty, less than 100 years later, King Hammurabi codified a series of simple rules and regulations inspired by Shamash, the sun god, by adopting previously existing edicts into the socio-economic realities. These regulations, inspired by divinity, were etched in stone and have influenced all modern law to this day. Now, the last time Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn were together, Saturn left the sign of Capricorn before Jupiter actually transited Pluto, and there were no retrogrades to bring them back. But I want you to grasp the significance of the last time, back 1894 BC that this happened. None of us were around, not even me. That was a joke. None of us were around then, right? So we only have history as it is written and was orated throughout the years to go by. So because of that, we've got to go by what history tells us happened. So the last time this occurred, there was a major change and shift in how humanity governed itself and governed its socio-economic rules and regulations, and it was done with divine edicts, beliefs, thoughts in mind. There were divinely inspired changes made to how the world itself operated socially and economically. And they were divinely inspired by the sun god of the time. That's significant. I want that to sink in for a moment. How we relate on a personal, individual level to society, how our economic lives are dictated, are run, are governed, how we govern our own selves and how we relate to that government is going to become very critical during 2020. Because the socio-economic changes that are going to happen this time are also going to be divinely inspired, spiritually inspired. If we look at the economics of spirituality, if we look at the economics of religion as it is presently organized today, we've seen the decline in church attendance, standard church attendance, be it Christian church, be it Islamic mosque, be it Jewish synagogue. There has been a huge decline in attendance, and not only in attendance, but in adherence to what has heretofore been known as standard religious practices. And if you don't believe that there is an economy to spirituality, I don't know why. You only have to look at how religious organizations are run right now. There is an economy in religion. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, that economy, right, the economics of religion has become something that we tend to walk away from and turn away from because it has become toxic. We only have to look to our own United States of America to see that our laws, whether we want to recognize it or not, that our Constitution, that our Bill of Rights, that our Declaration of Independence was also divinely, right, inspired, or inspired by religious text and religious beliefs of the time, by the Western Judeo-Christian dare I say simply Christian beliefs held at that time. So everything in our short 200 some years of existence, 200 plus years of existence, almost 3 now, everything in our short period of time across a precious few generations has been created based upon a King James Christian belief system. Our social mores are based in that King James Western Christian belief system. It was standardized for everyone to go to church. You went to church on Sunday whether you liked it or not. Christianity was almost or pretty much, I would say, the law of the land, if you will. People say repeatedly, this is a Christian nation. And I'm not disputing any of that, nor am I denigrating any of that, nor am I invalidating any of that. I'm just speaking it as truth. But if I look at the last time these energies were all together, there was a great dynasty created at that moment in time. There was a great change in how a massive group of people, I would say, dare to say the world view, because the Babylonians were a world controlling dynasty. There was a great change in how that world view was then regulated, governed. And it was done by melding spirituality or divine inspiration into socio-economic lives. So when I look at this upcoming year, yes, we know that Pluto reigns over personal transformation, being the ruler of Scorpio, and we know that Jupiter is the expander, the gift giver, and that Saturn is the teacher. These 3 planets over the course of the next year are not only going to become triply conjunct, however, as Jupiter has now entered Capricorn now in December, in mid-March, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are all within 10 degrees of each other. That is a lot of very powerful, ancient, global, collective energy all put together at the beginning of the astrological calendar of Aries. So at the beginning of the astrological year, in the springtime, in the rebirth time, we are going to have 3 very potent energies basically colliding. By that point, Mars and the Moon will join the super stellium in March, the ruler of Aries, and the Moon, the ruler of emotion and intuition. What I am proposing is this: that by the time March comes around in 2020, our socio and economic rules, lives will be drastically different, or we'll begin to see drastic changes coming. How we relate to the collective, how we interact with the collective. Are we going to be open to receiving major shifts in our spiritual lives? our own personal spiritual lives at the time of the rebirth. Springtime is all about rebirth. The seeds that were planted, or the ground had laid dormant, I should say, for the winter, resting, rejuvenating, gathering its nutrients, gathering its good, vibrant, life-giving energy. And starting in March, when we plant our seeds, that begins the time of the dormancy of the seed that then dies and is reborn and transformed into something else. Life comes from death. Life comes from death. We know this to be true as a spiritual principle from many and most religions. We know this to be a fact. We see it in the physical. What was the point of the rebirth of Christ, of the resurrection of Christ? It was to bring eternal life. Are we ourselves going to be able to finally move into an eternal life? Now, I'm not trying to say that there's going to be some grand rapture, and I'm not trying to say that the end times are quote unquote here, or that there's going to be, an antichrist or this, that, and the third. What I am saying, though, is we only have to look to the heavens, to whence we were supposed to be looking anyway, no matter which religion you subscribe to or have subscribed to in the past. But we only have to look to the heavens to see this convergence of eternal power and energy, gifts, lessons and governance, transformation, and let's just throw in a tad bit of aggression and intuition in the mix. Just throw a little bit of that in the mix and shake all that up and see what happens. I'm proposing to you that this personal year-long achievement that we should be moving towards is not just, and in fact, secondarily, third dimensional. But in fact, instead, it is a literal personal transformation into our divinity, a rebirth or a birthing into who we are in divinity. And our collective consciousness is going to change. After in mid-March of 2020, which would be right around a full moon moment, Saturn is going to then cross over into Aquarius, but with retrogrades, all three get pulled back into Capricorn for the summer. So you'll get a tad bit of a reprieve after mid-March into April and May. But by June, we're right back at it, people. So through a series of retrogrades, right? Saturn comes back in and says, what you didn't do in March, I'm going to give you another opportunity to re-examine this and redo it in the summertime, when there's plenty of sun available, when we're moving into the sun in Gemini, in Cancer, and in Leo. All of those life-giving, thought-provoking, personal, planetary or zodiac placements, houses, what they represent, how we think, how we live, our family, our close people, how intuitive we are. And how we love in Leo. Love, protection. We've got son, mother, and father back to back to back. The age of Aquarius, yes. We are being ushered into a new age. We are being ushered into an age where we are truly to live life in spirit. Because if we do not live life in spirit, let me tell you, it's going to be difficult. It will not be easy. These are not easy transitions. These are not easy transits. These are not easy lessons to learn. Whenever we have a grand disruption like this is how we very personally feel, listen to, or have been taught, and how we personally govern not only our own lives, but then how does the government, how does our socio-economic status, how do the socio-economic rules govern our daily lives? This is the year we're moving into. This is a live podcast, so I'm looking at some of the comments, and there's a comment here about the age of technology and the age of knowledge. I'm going to also say to you this. Yes, I agree that we're coming into the age of technology and the age of knowledge. However, I personally believe that this level of transformation and long-term personal achievement and long-term personal goal setting and long-term personal how we relate to the collective is literally us coming into a long-term comfort level, transformation level of a living fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensionally while still at the same time being grounded to the third dimensional realm. Our understanding and knowledge is no longer going to solely come from what we see, feel, touch, hear. You only have to look at what's out on the internet right now. You only have to look at what people will call fake news and what people call real news. And in actuality, it's rather flip-flopped if you open your eyes and you open your ears to what the truth truly is. It's flip-flopped. What mainstream media, and this is all over the world, it doesn't matter if you're here in the US or you're overseas. You are only shown on the television airwaves or the television frequencies. You're only shown what the government wants you to see. You are not shown the truth behind it. You are not shown reality. You're given a version of reality because in the current socio-economic structure, certain individuals, entities, and groups have to remain and stay in power. They are fighting for their power over you. The Matrix is real, people. We're only shown what certain groups wish for us to see. And on what they may call the dark waves or the wild, wild west of the internet, you're not shown that. There are people that are pulling the curtain back and showing you and giving you truth. But depending upon how blinded you are by the tribe that you've been living in all this time, that will dictate whether or not you are willing to see, hear, and understand that what you're being fed is a falsity. It is untrue. This is what this last few months, I'm telling you, with Neptune in Pisces, and I know I'm giving a lot of astrology here, but follow me. The energy of Neptune in Pisces being at home, it being in retrograde for so long at home, that's a long transit there, Neptune in Pisces. There's delusion, there's subterfuge, there's mental illness, and illusion with that very strong Neptunian energy at home. Self-sabotage, all apart, all the dark side, right? As it came direct, and now with Mars trining Neptune at the moment, now we are able to see, oh, wait a minute, we've been blinded. This Plutonian, this Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter conjunction that is about to occur in a very few short months is cataclysmic. Not only all of that, not quite trining Uranus down there in Taurus, but Uranus has been hanging out in Taurus for quite some time, disrupting the daily routine. So we've had a disruption of our daily routine going on, and it will continue to go on through 2026. And along with that disruption of our daily routine and a tad bit of rebellion, make your money different, make your money in new ways, make your money in innovative, technological, dare I say, deeply and highly spiritual ways. Now we've got the super stellium going on, about to happen. The super stellium is not only a conduit, it is a push. It is a push. It is the energy that we need to ignite a collective consciousness, frequency raising, energy explosion that has never been seen before. Never been seen before. And in our lifetimes will never be seen again. The last time this happened, Babylonia was created. Some would say that's the first great empire. Integrating spirituality and government. We have to be prepared to rewrite the laws of our society to better suit our ever-changing socio-economic and political realities. How are we going to allow our government to operate? Are we going to allow a deep state to continue to operate, or are we finally going to take our government back? Because you see, The retrogrades put all three back in Capricorn for the summer. In October, all three again will be moving direct, but they'll be even closer in October in the fall harvest season, within 6 degrees of one another. And that triple conjunction will remain until mid-December, when finally Jupiter and Saturn move into Aquarius. Babylon was really the first great empire. The first great empire. Egypt came many centuries later. So think about it this way. The last time this happened, there was, for the first time in human history, an empire created that integrated the spiritual beliefs or edicts from a sun god into human governance. What is going to change this time, and how are we going to be a part of it this time? We don't have a lot of royalty third dimensionally. There's leaders, certainly. There's a lot of democracies around the world. There's more socialist countries and communist countries and dictatorships actually around the world. What are we going to experience? What's going to change? Because I'm telling you, as sure as I'm speaking to you right now, the collective consciousness is going to undergo a major change. A major change. This is the flint and the stone. This is the spark that will change how we live for centuries to come. This is going to change humanity as we know it. So the question then once again becomes this: are you prepared to move into a life of living in spirit? And I will briefly speak about what that means, and then we'll close for this Sunday. Living a life in spirit, when I look at that super stellium about to happen, it means being not only accepting of gifts, Jupiter, but also the giver of gifts, Jupiter. It means being willing to expand your reach, your knowledge. It means being willing to see into the future, the possibilities, and being willing to run after them full speed ahead. However, it's in Capricorn, so Capricorn's going to say, okay, we can run full speed ahead, but now here we have Saturn on top saying, okay, we've learned some of the lessons from before, young buck. I'm an old man, and I've seen a few things. I'm the father. Yeah? So as the teacher, and the one that knows everything, and the one that likes a little bit of structure, a lot of structure, the one that has to understand what are our intentions and our goals before we move forward, Saturn is going to pull the throttle back and say, that's great. That's awesome. But we cannot be out here just willy-nilly wanting to raise our vibrations, wanting to raise our energy, wanting to learn to manifest, wanting to experience these kundalini awakenings, wanting to go and do these ayahuasca trips for nothing. Because trust me, Saturn's been saying for a little while, what are y'all children doing? What is the purpose of your awakening? So Saturn's going to pull the coattail and say, that's great. I got no problem with that. But what we're going to need to do here is we're going to have to set some boundaries and some goals. And you have to know the why behind the what. There's no more just spouting off and regurgitating the buzzwords of the day and buying all the crystals from the crystal shop and studying your crystal Bible and understanding astrology and pulling tarot cards and going to this reader and that reader and not having a purpose long term. Not just for short-term feel-good gain. You're going to have to know why you're saying what you're saying. And you're going to want to know because you're going to be forced to know. Because guess what? Just throwing it out there is not going to work anymore. Playtime is over, folks. Playtime is done. What you did not get before, you can still get now an understanding, but you're going to have to put some real work into it this go around. You're going to have to put some work into it. And then we have Pluto that's saying all this is all fine, well, and good. Love expansion, sort of like the rules you're laying down. We'll live with it. But what does it mean to me, and how is it going to change my life for the better? I will say this. If, though, you are continuing at this date, 12/15/2019, December 15th of 2019, if you are continuing to simply remain in the same comfortable position that you've been in for a while, even though you know you don't belong there, even though you know that there's more to it, even though you know that you're supposed to be growing, even though you know that you're supposed to be living and breathing and moving and changing, even though you feel the call to live higher, to live in governance, to live in control over your third dimensional experience from your higher dimensional self. Even if you've known all this innately and you've chosen not to do a blessed thing with it, it's going to be a lot harder to do it come 2020. I will tell you that. It's probably harder to do it now. It's still doable, but it's going to be more difficult. So my advice is to begin to make the plans to move out of the situations that you're in and make the changes you need to make. Because just as much as the opportunity for growth and change and evolution are going to be afforded to you in 2020, this train, this bus waits for no one. The changes are going to happen whether you like it or not. This is why those of you that have been on my YouTube channel for the last year, I've been saying, make the change, 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 Make the change. Been saying it for a long time. Move into your proper tribe. You can't bring everybody along with you. You have to become self-partnered. You have to be in love with yourself and be used to listening to the small, still voice. Your spirit doesn't shout. Your spirit speaks softly, but powerfully. I've been saying we have to learn to move with spirit. Move with spirit. Spirit moves faster than flesh. Spirit moves faster than our mind. Move with spirit. Live in spirit. Live life in spirit. This can be a magical, abundant, amazing, and fabulous journey. And those that grow to the understanding of as it is above, so it is below, will be able to live life in spirit, rise above all of the tumultuous craziness that's happening in the earth. Because it will happen, guys. Uranus is going to be disrupting a whole lot for quite some time. This is giving us an opportunity to rewrite law, or how we understand physical law from a spiritual standpoint, and comprehend that spiritual law supersedes and rules earthly law. The law of gravity was created by the Spirit. The law of sowing and reaping was created by the Spirit. The laws of attraction were created by the Spirit, and they play themselves out here on the earth. The question is, are you going to move with the changes, with the knowledge, with the opening of the knowledge, with the opening of the floodgates of spiritual gifts and abilities for personal transformation? Are you going to transform into your divine being, or are you going to remain a third dimensional being trying to attain some higher purpose? That is what's set before us. To finally live our lives from a higher position, understanding that we, in fact, rule over the earth. Make your plans, guys. Step into your purpose. Meditate, think, contemplate, write it down. Embrace your intuition, embrace your empathy, embrace all the spiritual gifts that are being given to you. And get ready, because there's a lot of people that are going to need to know, what in the world do I do now? And you are going to have the ability to say, live life in spirit. You are going to have the ability to say, embrace who you are. You are going to have the ability to say, embrace your divinity. This is outside of religion. This is spirituality. This is outside of one sole deity. And this is the spiritual understanding that the deities are all intertwined. Divine feminine and masculine. to create something wonderful and new. That's what I have for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for joining me for this inaugural Live Life in Spirit Sunday podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Heart of INSP, HEARTOFINSP. Follow me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Heart of Inspiration, or find me on my website, www.heartofinspiration.net. Until next time, live life in spirit. Namaste. Good night.